I just watched a really thoughtful video by Professor Anton, who was dwelling on this question whether or not humans are insane. And from there he asked related questions like whether religion was a kind of mind disease or cognitive infection that science has been tasked with eradicating or curing and treating and hopefully to cure. Um, and then he began talking about the theology of money and the way that many who call themselves modern scientific rationalistic people will and who will rail against the superstitious and at best childish, if not at worst insane, um, religious belief, while at the same time they'll be perfectly willing to engage in the rituals and accept the supernatural beliefs associated with capitalism and the theology of money. Um, so Corey also talked about the way science is struggling uh, to cure us of our own animal and cultural insanity. But it's a curious fact that in the process of trying to gain control over our instinctual nature, techno-capitalism, techno-capitalist society has in fact unleashed a tremendous amount of creativity. We've had such in the last few hundred years. Humans have had some sector of the human population, at least, has had such a tremendous effect upon the entire biosphere that we're entering a new geological era. This is the Anthropocene now. We've initiated the sixth great mass extinction event. So we're a geological force. Techno-capitalism has allowed us to unleash more energy and evolutionary ingenuity than the planet has ever seen in such a small span of time. I think it's safe to say. I mean, you'll have to check my numbers on that. But, clearly no one can deny the creative capacity of capitalism. It's just a matter of where this is all leading, right? And there's also the matter of what it's doing to the human spirit, and whether or not the theology of money is in many ways disconnecting us from and alienating us from what Professor Anton calls the vegetative and organismic transpiring of our daily and nightly lives, of the whole cycle of human existence, with all of its temporal depths. So not just the waking world of the rational ego, but the dreaming world of the irrational soul, and the deep sleep, of the sort of absent witness. Human life is way more complex, way more irrational and mysterious than just the theology of money and the religion of capitalism would lead us to believe. And I think, Corey, Professor Anton, ended his video by asking this really, I think, important ethical and ontological question. And he asked, whose insanity is worse? The Native Americans who were living on Turtle Island before the Europeans arrived and called it North America. Were they more insane than us? And consider how the natives impacted the land for the 10 or 15,000 years that they lived on the continent versus the way that we have impacted the land, we Western Europeans, with our modern technology and scientific rationalism, and ask, whose insanity is worse? Maybe that has no effect on you. If you're into like Ayn Rand's political philosophy, she argued that when the Europeans arrived, they had no ethical responsibility, to respect the land rights of the natives who were already living here for thousands and thousands of years, because these native peoples were so ignorant. They had no conception of human property, and they didn't realize that God created, okay, Ayn Rand's an atheist, but still, some kind of strange God called man invented this idea of property, and if any stupid, ignorant, primitive person on this turtle island doesn't recognize that they need to sign contracts and have a deed in order to claim ownership over land, then they don't deserve to keep it anyways. That's that's Ayn Rand's perspective on this, but maybe you have more moral imagination than her, and you're able to inhabit the perspective of a native person looking at the Europeans arriving. And so this question, whose insanity is worse, has a different effect on you. But before I say anything more,